I would like to call the meeting to order. Today is Thursday, June 26, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Rent Stabilization Commission for the City of West Hollywood. Commissioner Goldman, will you please give us the land acknowledgement?
The West Hollywood Rent Stabilization Commission acknowledges that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and the Gabrielino Quiche peoples.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Thornton, may we please have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Copeland?
Present.
Commissioner Goldman?
Here.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Here.
Commissioner McCafferty?
Here.
Commissioner Topshin?
Here.
Vice Chair Rory?
Here.
Chair Bass?
Here. We have a quorum. We'll now move on to approval of the agenda, and at the request of the staff, the appeal, which is item number 9A on our agenda this evening, will be continued to a date uncertain. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. May we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Copeland?
Aye.
Commissioner Goldman?
Aye.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Aye.
Commissioner McCafferty?
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Rory?
Aye.
Chair Bass?
Aye. That motion carries. We will now move on to item number 5, which is the approval of the minutes from our June 12th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those, and are there any changes? Then do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May we please have a roll call on the minutes?
Commissioner Copeland?
Aye.
Commissioner Goldman?
Aye.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Aye.
Commissioner McCafferty?
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Rory?
Aye.
Chair Bass?
Aye. And that motion passes. We'll now move to item number 6 on our agenda, which is public comment. Do we have anyone wishing to address the commission at this time?
Not at this time.
Thank you very much. We're moving right along to item number 7, the manager's report. Would like to welcome you back, Ms. Aviles. Do we have a report?
Yes, good evening. I'm honored to join this group again. Tonight, the look ahead is for, obviously, today we'll be talking about the AGA and the relocation fees, temporary relocation expense schedule. For our July 10th meeting, we will have an appeal for D case 4889 CD1, and there will be a reorganization of chair and vice chair, commission liaison appointments to other commissions and advisory boards. On our July 24th meeting, we'll have an appeal for D case 5011. And on our August 14th meeting, there'll be the formation of the ad hoc subcommittee to evaluate the valuation guidelines and community input on the interest rate on security deposits, discussions on modifications to the interest accrual calculation. That's all.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the staff at this time? Thank you very much. Oh, Vice Chair Rory.
Do we have any sense, I asked this at the last meeting as well, but I'll follow up about the number of appeals that are potentially to be heard in July meetings or August meetings? And if we still aren't sure, that's fine too, but I was curious if
Yeah, whatever is scheduled is what we have as appeals right now.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll move on now to item number 8, which is new business. And this item is the 2025 and 2026 annual general adjustment and relocation fees. Mrs. Aviles, do we have a presentation for this item?
Yes, we do. My lovely assistant, Brandy, will help me with this. So as you already know, there's an annual general adjustment that's announced on a yearly basis by the commission. This presentation will give an overview on how we calculate these annual general adjustments and the new numbers that are for the both permanent relocation fees as well as the temporary relocation benefit schedule. Next slide, please. Under Rent Stabilization Ordinance, Section 17.36020, there is language that actually informs us on how this calculation is made. The maximum allowable rent for a rental unit may be increased without application to the city in an amount not to exceed 75% of the increase in the consumer price index during preceding 12 months. Said percentage increase shall be equal to the percentage increase between the CPI last reported as of May of the prior year and the month of May of the current year. The amount of the permitted increase shall be rounded to the nearest 1/4 of 1%. Next slide, please. So in looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, for this month of May, the CPI was 343.010, which was that was reported in May's statistics. If we go to the next slide, we'll be able to see what the May 2024 CPI was, and it was 332.956. When we deduct the 332 from the 343, we get 10.054 raw data points, making it equivalent to a 3.02%. And then we multiply that by the 75%, which gives us a 2.265. When it's rounded to the nearest 1/4, the new percentage is now 2.25%. It's important to note that although the AGA is effective September 1st, 2025, landlords may only implement rent increases once every 12 months. Next slide, please. The relocation fees shall be adjusted for inflation by the percentage change in the rent of primary residence, component of the CPIU index for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim, California area from May to May, rounded to the nearest whole dollar. Next slide, please. This year's rent of primary residence reported $483.397, and the next slide will also show you an example of how this calculation is made. If we can go to the next one. For the May 2024, it was reported at $462.776, and when we deduct that from this year's CPIU, we have 20.61 raw data points, which equal to 4.46%. Also important to note that any tenant that's facing displacement but is still in possession of his or her unit is entitled to the increase in the fee amount required by West Hollywood Municipal Code Section 1752.020. So any balance due after a fee increase becomes effective shall be paid before the tenant is required to vacate their housing unit. Next slide, please. So when we apply the 4.46% to the current amount, we now have a new set amount of permanent relocation fees shown on the right column that indicates effective 7/1/2025. You'll notice that for a studio or bedroom, it's $9,492. For a 1-bedroom, it will now be $13,405. For a 2-bedroom unit, it's $18,056. For 3+ bedrooms, it will now be $23,829. And then there's qualified and moderate tenant types, which will both have the $25,131, and the lower income will now be $31,645. Next slide, please. This is to comply with state and local housing, health, and building and safety laws when a landlord may be required to provide relocation benefits to a temporarily displaced tenant. This is the temporary relocation benefit for per diems, which would now become effective July 1st, 2025. For meal allowance is now $68, laundry allowance is $2, and the pet accommodations for dogs is $74, and cats it's $51. This is all we are reporting tonight.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Topshin.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Ms. Avias. How are you?
Good.
A couple of questions. So, number one, why the laundry allowance stays the same, $2 per diem? I just wonder.
Yeah, it was a conversation that we actually had with Kellen. It seems like the CPI will always make it $2, so we may be looking into doing similarly what we did with the valuation guidelines, where there was items that would always remain the same, that we now somehow add, like, for example, maybe $1 every year that we have an increase, so that increase is incremented every year.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I hope we can do that. The other question is, if we go back to the relocation rates, the previous slide, that regarding the qualified and moderate type of tenancies. So this is based on the HUD income levels. The qualified, the determination if it's a low income or moderate income.
Yes,
So
it
it's
is.
based on the HUD numbers.
That's correct.
And where can the HUD numbers, are there any published anywhere so that people can verify, the residents can verify their income levels, just to have an idea?
Sure. Our temporary relocation and our permanent relocation fees that we provide in the office do show these amounts, as well as the income levels based on the number of people that reside in the unit.
Okay, I just wanted to know that. And that is based on the household income?
Yes.
Okay, determination. All right, thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. Do any of my Commissioner Kirpies?
Thank you for the report. I just have one question. Is there a reason why we have the two different implementation dates, the September versus July 1st on the relocation fees? Was that just the way the code was written, or?
Yes, that is the way the code is written. So the annual general adjustment, it becomes effective September 1st, just because since the inception of the city, that's when the adjustments were made, versus the relocation fees become effective July 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Vice Chair Rory.
For folks listening at home in the record, and maybe a little myself, could you just generally describe when there might be circumstances where relocation fees would apply, and then versus the temporary relocation? Just so people listening at home seeing these charts could understand a little better, what are the circumstances where that might pertain to their experience?
Sure. So for the relocation fees that you see on the slide now, this would be in effect for those tenants that are being evicted for no fault. So there could be in circumstances like the Ellis eviction or owner occupancy eviction, or if the tenant is being evicted because there's code violations in the unit that they're living, and so they would no longer be able to live in the unit. So these are the permanent relocation fees offered. Versus the temporary ones are if a tenant is going through, for example, water damage repair or mold remediation, and the tenant must be out of the unit temporarily until all that work is done, then the tenant can move back once the work is completed. The temporary benefit relocation then applies in that situation.
And then real quick for a follow-up, for the temporary scenario, what about the housing for the temporary location? Is that just between the landlord and the tenant to figure out, or is it not addressed? Because I can see obviously meal allowance, laundry, pet, but what about the relocation itself on the temporary basis?
So the temporary, there's a couple of options. One is the landlord can provide a unit in the building that's vacant to temporarily house the tenant. The landlord can put the tenant in a hotel, or the landlord and the tenant can agree to, for example, an Airbnb location, or the tenant can agree to live with a family member and then get a whatever the hotel expense would be in exchange for that. So we do have a temporary relocation benefit form where the landlord has to document what option is being given available to the tenant.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner McCafferty.
I have a question on this slide. So how does this chart work? Like, if you have a one-bedroom, but also your moderate income, like, is that 13,000 to 25, like, compounded, or are these separate? How are these numbers related?
So if we apply it to, for example, an Ellis eviction, the landlord can initiate the Ellis eviction, first of all, based on the number of bedrooms. So if, let's say you live in a two-bedroom apartment, the landlord has to provide a check for $18,056 to initiate the Ellis. We then refer tenants to an outside agency that works with relocation assistance, and that agency helps us determine whether this tenant is qualified, if they're moderate income, if they're low income. Once they designate it or identify them as such, then they notify us, and then we tell the landlord, guess what, the tenant is actually, for example, lower income, so they're actually entitled to the $31,000. You need to pay the difference between what you paid for the number of bedrooms and what they're entitled to as a low-income tenant before the tenant moves out of the unit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair?
Yes.
Very, very quickly, maybe you, Ms. Aviles, maybe you already mentioned, but can you, again, explain how these information will be distributed or sent to the landlords and tenants? I know this is on the website.
Yes, it is on
I'm
the
sure it
website.
is.
Yes.
But were any other ways of doing outreach or, reaching out to landlords and tenants? What are the ways?
To inform them about the increases?
About the increases and also the change in the relocation fees.
Yeah, so we do have our annual newsletter that goes out this summer. That's how most landlords and tenants are aware of the relocation fees, where the annual general adjustment is announced, as well as the increases to the relocation fees.
And that goes to every address in the
Yes.
city? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. I have two questions, unless there's others. First of all, can you just, we have it in our packets, but talk just a little bit about what qualified is, for in case somebody is watching at home, so they know what that phrase means for this. And the other question for you is about the AGA, but I can hold that.
Sure. A qualified tenant would be a tenant that's either 62 years or older, disabled, or is living with a minor dependent. That would be considered a qualified tenant.
Okay. And my question about the AGA, it begins September 1st. Help me understand how this works, and if it's situational based, please let me know that as well. But when a landlord's required to give you a 30 days notice of increasing the rent, does that mean that if they initiate the increase, let's say August 1st, but the rent wouldn't take place until September 1st, which would be governing, the current in August when they give notice, or the new one because the rent increase would actually not start until September?
It's when the rent increase is effective. So if the rent increase is effective September 1st, it would be the new rate.
Okay.
Now, if they gave notice on July 1st and the rent increase became effective August 1st, then it would be the current increase.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. Any additional questions on this item? Then this is a receive and file. We've announced it to the public, so consider it received and filed, and we will move on now to our new business. Excuse me, we've done that. We moved the appeal off of the agenda this evening, so we will turn once again. Ms. Aviles, do we have any additional items from staff?
Not at this time.
Thank you very much. I will also ask now if we have additional public comment, but I've seen no one else walk in the room.
Not at this time.
Okay, so we will move on to item number 12, items from commissioners. Commissioner Copeland?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to briefly find out if, I know we have landlord-tenant building blocks, which are voluntary, I understand, for information. There's been a lot of misinformation lately that's going on that maybe we have out-of-state owners or we have new management, and things are happening that we're seeing here as well as in the neighborhood where people are actually having to leave homes and so forth because the information is, they're getting it from each other rather than official information. Is there, I don't know if we can compel any sort of training or video or package to be required for rent-stabilized owners or managers to sign off on, or how we could best get that information out so that it's more effective and beneficial to both parties. But there's so much of it going on, and we see it here as well. Sometimes actually they're angry with us because it's not in the lease, therefore they shouldn't have to do things. Tenants are suffering as well because they don't have the information. Their manager doesn't have the information or doesn't give them the right thing, and they're leaving their home when they don't have to. We've seen with cases even in the leases that we get that they're charging $50, $100, 10% as far as late fees, not the 1% and now 2% that it should have been. So there's just a lot of misinformation. It seems to be compounded recently. So I don't know if there's any way that maybe we can agendize a conversation of how to better get this information out, and maybe legal can tell us whether we can possibly compel something, whether it's a video, that has to be watched and signed off on, or a packet or something. Anyway, that maybe we could bring this back for discussion for the commission. Thank you. That's all for me, Chair.
I can answer
Please.
that, yeah. So as part of our work plan, we are trying to get together 3 things. One is an actual welcome packet to landlords that are registering with us for the first time. And then a welcome packet every time we have a new tenant that is registered with the city so that they receive information as well. And we are already looking into RFPs to get a company or an agency that will assist us with some educational videos that we can put online. So it's really part of our work plan as during these coming months. So it's good that you're mentioning that now.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you saying that, because I would love on one of these meetings that we don't have a lot of appeals when that comes forward. I think we'd love to see it, and it might give one more opportunity to, I don't know how many people are enthralled by our meetings and watch, but for the handful that are, they probably already know this information. But for those who are up late at night watching local TV, I think it would be great for them to see it as well. Commissioner Copeland, you have more?
Would that be something that would be possible to actually bring to the commission for any type of input as that process is in place, or is it already something that, just for suggestions?
Yeah,
or?
it's already in place, but if you guys have suggestions, send me an email, and then we could look into incorporating some of those suggestions, because I know you guys do have some really good feedback and input that could be phenomenal in the creation of these videos. So
Okay.
We'll accept those.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Additional comments from commissioners? I just want to thank staff. That's fantastic. I love when the commission asks for things and staff's like, yeah, we're already on it. That's West Hollywood staff for you. So thank you for that. The first item on our next agenda is, one of the first items on the next agenda is a new chair and vice chair. So I will just let my colleagues know that this is the way you run a meeting. You get done in about 20, 30 minutes. So, right? Anyway. That's an impossible bar. Right. So we've set the bar very high here tonight. Thank you very much. This will conclude our meeting. Thank you all, and we will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Rent Stabilization Commission to be held on July 10th, 2025 in West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers. That's this room. Thank you.